Welcome to Sports Chat with Matt. This is my first ever guest, Jordan Taylor. He is an all-time Badger great and now a 10-year overseas vet, Mr. Basketball in Minnesota in 2008, All-American as a junior, two-time first-team All-Big Ten, and All-Big Ten defensive team. Jordan, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you having me, man. Appreciate that introduction. You're making me feel good, making me blush over here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, well, first, you just got back home from Japan a few days ago. How'd the season go, and how did you like Tokyo?
Season went well, man. It went well for the most part. I was coming off of a MCL injury, surgery from the prior year, so getting back into it was good. We didn't go quite as far as we wanted to. You know, we had championship aspirations and ended up having some injuries late, and then weren't able to win. But Tokyo is amazing. Tokyo overall is like New York City, so that's probably one of the coolest parts is like getting to see a city like that. And it started to open up from coronavirus towards the end. So yeah, Tokyo. Any chance you get to go in the city and see stuff is dope, and it's one of the coolest things about Japan is like you can go like an hour and a half from Tokyo to the southeast or east and get to the beach and like Disneyland and like there's surfing and stuff like that. And then you can go like 2 hours, 3 hours the other way and be snowboarding in the mountains. So it's pretty, and you can do it all by train. So it's pretty cool.
Was the G League ever an option for you? Because I know you played overseas your entire career.
So yeah, I mean, I had training camp offers after my senior year and after summer league and all that, but I just got more money to go overseas. And honestly, it was the D League then when I was coming out, like you said, and now it's kind of flipped on its head because with the two-way stuff, you can make. I mean, you're making 85 grand or whatever, and then up to whatever it is, 240, 300. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's like. For college, that's still a lot of money. Like overseas, your first year, most guys probably aren't getting that their first year, like the 85 grand, their first year out. But the travel overseas. Actually, I remember my first year in Rome. I went to Italy and I actually took less money to go to Italy my first year because I could have gone to this country called Montenegro where I had no idea what the hell that was, like no clue at the time. So I went to Italy, and I think the first week I was there, maybe the third day, we had a preseason tournament. So I'm like, all right, cool, preseason tournament. And they're like, it's in the mountains by Switzerland. I'm like, all right, that sounds dope. In a city called Bormio. And they're like, all right, the bus leaves at 6 a.m. or something like that. 7, it was early in the morning. I was like, bus? Like, what? Like, bus? Like, yeah, we got a bus there. I was like, all right, cool. How long is the bus ride? Like, so show up to the bus, whatever. We get there, and I asked them, like, how long is the bus ride? They said 8 hours. I'm looking around like I'm beside myself because I'm coming from Wisconsin. I'm like, we charter from Madison to Minneapolis. There's food on the plane. Like, I feel I'm spoiled, all that. Like, I'm not. I was ready to go home right there and then. Like, this is nonsense. But the D League travel at the time, I think, was pretty comparable. Like, you're taking layovers and flights late at night and such. So it wasn't much better.
Okay.
But nowadays, I think the G League is an easy decision. If I was coming out now and I had the same options, which would probably be like undrafted, two-way, whatever, then I would definitely play in the G League. I definitely would have selected that.
100%. I mean, like from you entered the draft in 2012, graduated in 2012. There's 60 more roster spots available now than there were back then. Like you said, and they pay better. And now every team's got a G League. Like it was in its infancy, stage back then when you were rising through the ranks or first entered the pro ranks.
I'm definitely that bitter old head now, looking back at the process. Because when I was coming out too, like my junior year, I was thinking about coming out, but you had to decide if you were going to be in the draft by like end of April or early May or something like that, and you had to make a decision and then stay. Where now it's like, damn, you can go to the combine, you could pretty much stay in the draft up until you find, or in the process up until you find out if you're going to get drafted or not.
Yeah.
So it's like, which is how it should be. 100%. That's how it should be.
Oh yeah.
So, but back, I'm looking like, damn, like, man, y'all are lucky. Y'all got all these perks and stuff like that. But it's definitely cool for them. But sometimes you look back and just be like, man, That ain't right.
Yeah, no, they have until June 1st this year. Like
Wow.
June 1st. Like that's night and day from when you were there. I mean, you didn't even have a chance to really think about it your junior year. You had no time to truly, get like the intel you needed and to truly think it through what you want to do going forward. I mean,
Well, it all happened so fast for me because like going in my junior year, like my stock rose dramatically
yeah.
in terms of draft stuff, and like it was like all right, February. I think I was left off the Kuzi list, and they put me on the Kuzi list, and like made it. And like they're like, oh, we made a mistake, and they added me on there, and then from that day on, it was like from February to the end of March was like a whirlwind. It was like a month and a half. And then all of a sudden now, like I had agents, I had like more agents calling me talking about coming out. So I was like, all right, like, should I come out? Should I do this? Should I do that? And then April hit when the season, like the national championship, April 4th or whatever it was. And then I'm pretty sure the date was like April 24th. So it was really like 3 weeks where it's like you have that decision to make. And at the same time, you're like trying to enjoy the season that you just had. Yeah. And then, from at that April 24th to, that doesn't sound like a lot, April 24th to June 1st, but that whole month or 6 weeks, whatever it is to make a decision makes a world of difference. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
You wouldn't have the chance back then to go to the NBA Combine, would you?
No way. Yeah. Combine was in, I think even then the Combine might've been later. I'm old. That's how old I am. I don't even remember it, but
they just had it. Which, a few days ago. What is it? May 27th?
But I think when I was coming out, it was like even later. I think it was in June, the beginning of June, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So.
Well, they made the necessary changes. Like that. How much of the Badgers you watch today? When you're in the middle of the season overseas, you're busy. You're traveling. You have games. You're in a completely different time zone. How much you get to follow the Badgers? How much you get to watch the Badgers?
Actually, this year. I got to watch them a lot more. I don't know if they had more national TV games or if it just happened to be easier to watch. In Japan, it's easier than in Europe too because it's a 14-hour time difference. So if they're playing at 7 p.m. or whatever, it's 9 a.m. in Japan. So I'm up and able to do that, or 8 p.m., 10 a.m., whatever. This is probably the most games I've watched probably since the Final Four seasons when I was like fresh out of school.
Sure.
And I think it was probably the most fun team to watch in a while. Just I think that Coach Gard did a good job. Obviously, Johnny Davis is the man. Like I'm hoping we get him on our podcast here soon. To be honest, before he finishes his process, but just the way Coach Gard kind of shifted from the swing and implemented some new offense and some different actions. It was cool to see. I felt like this was like the first year where he really, really kind of stepped into his own as a head coach. Like obviously he's done a great job throughout his time at Wisconsin, but I think when he spent 20 some years with Coach Ryan. So I think it's just like a player, it takes time to develop your identity and figure out kind of exactly what you want to do as your own individual. I think the same, like being in the swing for 4 years at Wisconsin, you step into pro basketball, you work on your game and you develop different strengths that apply to the program outside of college basketball. It just takes time to come into your own. So it's been cool to watch him like continue to grow as a head coach.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And this leads perfectly into my next question is, Johnny Davis, I believe out of high school is ranked 164th in the country. And he had 2 years at Wisconsin and now he's going pro, and the offense was he was the focal point and he had a lot of freedom. Like kind of like you had a lot of freedom your junior and senior year, but he had a lot of freedom and the offense really flowed through him. Do you think what Johnny Davis just did, being the man at Wisconsin, having everything flow through him, I look at, Johnny's a phenomenal player, but if he goes to Kentucky or he goes to Duke, there's McDonald's All-Americans. There's top 10 recruits everywhere next to him. Like, is he necessarily a man like he is at Wisconsin? But my question is, do you think what Johnny Davis just did can help change the narrative about, Wisconsin and getting to the NBA?
Yeah. No question. I think so for sure. I think to answer your first question, probably not. Like just being the 164th ranked player out of your class, like you're not even going to Kentucky or Duke.
Yeah.
So it's like that's not even on your radar. And I think rankings are not necessarily indicative of a player's talent, just because I think the margin between the 50th guy and the 130th guy is overblown as a perspective, like as a narrative. Like I don't think there's much difference. Now I think if you're talking about number 5 versus 160, then there's probably a talent discrepancy. But Wisconsin's always done a great job at developing guys. But I think Johnny, to do it in such a short time, in just 2 years, hopefully I think will change the narrative that, I think that Wisconsin doesn't get talented guys and they just develop them. I think it'll turn into like, oh, this is a partnership. Like, you're talented, we know you're talented, and you come here and I can help you flourish. And I think that will kind of change the narrative of the NBA thing, which I think is what Johnny and Coach Gard did. I mean, I think both of them kind of had that, can Coach Gard get guys to the NBA, or is it slow offense? Is it boring? And then also, do we have guys that have enough talent? So, I think no question. Obviously, the more success he has at the pro ranks, the more and more it'll help turn that on its head. But I don't see any reason after this why, guys like from the past, just Tyler Harrow, Vanderblue type kids that are probably more heralded recruits, wouldn't look at that and be like, oh wow, all right, I can stay 2 years and leave from Wisconsin, and even one. So
yeah, absolutely. And going off watching the current Badgers, what do you think of Chucky Hepburn's game? Because this is a big compliment to Chucky, but I see a lot of similarities in his game to yours. I mean, he's a strong guard, broad shoulders, good core strength, can finish through contact, and probably the biggest similarity that I see is his composure as a 18, 19-year-old freshman. I mean, he was cool as a cucumber, and I know you led the country in assist-to-turnover ratio, and he did a really good job of just not turning the ball over, protecting the ball. What do you think of his game, and do you see similarities to your game?
Yeah. I think Chucky probably has probably a little more wiggle than I had at the same time. So I really like Chucky. When they signed him out of high school, and I just looked at some of his YouTube stuff, I thought he was going to do well right there and then. And I think honestly, he's even more so than Johnny. He's one of those dudes who I think can really, really help change the narrative if he continues to do well and hopefully gets a chance to go to the NBA. Just because he's athletic, but he's not that ultra athlete. Johnny's probably one of the, he's probably an elite athlete, whereas Chucky's not as athletic.
Yeah.
But he's still a good athlete. So, yeah, and then I definitely see some similarities just in terms of the way that, like you said, his build and stuff like that. But, I think he's his own player too. Like, I don't like to draw too many comparisons. Like I said, I think he's probably better at we got, like I said, a little more wiggle than I did. At the same time, I think I developed some over the course of time and then lost it when I got old. But it was Chucky, the star, or the future is going to be bright for him, and I'm excited to see what he does next year, because he's really got a lot going for him and a lot in his game. So
100%. And next year, I think the roster they're building right now kind of has a classic Wisconsin feel to it, where they're not going to be ranked anywhere. Even like the top, like, people have their top 50 rankings out, and Wisconsin's nowhere to be found. And this team, you got a trio of Chucky, you got T-Wall and Crowell returning. I expect all those guys to make jumps like Wisconsin players typically do. And then you have guys who no one's expecting to make jumps. I expect them to make jumps. Like, talk about Neath. He was hurt all year. Yep. Jordan Davis. I mean, that guy's a really confident dude. His stroke is, it's a good looking shot. And then you add Klesman and you fill the hole. There was truly no backup point guard depth, and we saw that exposed in the Iowa State game. You added the McGee from Green Bay. I think this team's going to be hungry, and I think they're going to catch people off guard. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's crazy every year that kind of keeps happening. This year is probably more understandable, just because if you lose a guy like Johnny, it's like, all right, especially after a sophomore year, that's kind of unprecedented for Wisconsin. So it makes sense to think maybe they would take a step back. But at the same time, like, this is literally the oldest story. Got to be one of the oldest stories in college basketball at this point, where it's like every year, all right, they're not going to be good. They're not going to be good. And then they're good. It's like, y'all got to get bored of this at some point. Like, people really should start losing their jobs for this because like what are we doing? So but like I said, Chucky leading the way. I think you see Chucky make a huge jump. I'm interested to see how Tyler Wahl expands his game, honestly. If he expands it out to like the 3-point line, or just kind of stays around the basket like Ethan did. But either way, they're well coached. Coach Guard is one of the more underrated X and O coaches in the country, to be honest. And I think they'll have a good year. So
yeah, and T-Wall, like his stroke's a little different than Hap, where like Hap's shot, you just kind of like there would be clips that come out where he makes like 5 threes in a row in like an empty gym.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, but do I really expect that to happen in the gym? In the game, but
right.
Wall, like his form doesn't look bad. And
No.
Like a lot of it's mental. Like,
yep.
Like all of a sudden he started off 0 of 16 last year from 3 or something like that. And then against Ohio State, he just shoots 2 threes confidently, like he's been making them all year and nails them. I mean, and I think the last, don't quote me on this, but the last 2-3 months of the season, he shot like 33% from 3 after the slow start. Like I think the ability is there for Wall. I think a lot of it's between the ears.
That's the game though. I mean, it's basketball is staying healthy and where your mental's at. So and those two things are really connected. Like, it's just and I don't know what he's got going on. It could be one of those things where maybe his balance doesn't feel right or whatever. And when your body starts to feel better, you get more confident in your movements and stuff like that. So if it's one of those things that he works on, there's no question he can do that at a high clip.
Well, and he might be kind of feeling like the big man on campus now because, he had Johnny and Brad last year and both of them are gone. So now it's Wall and Chucky's show now. Like it's their time to be the guys in Madison.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a huge opportunity. It's definitely, and that honestly that's probably the most exciting time of like your basketball career. Honestly, it's like when you work all the time, obviously, but when there's a clear path and you kind of see that opportunity for your work to pay off, or there's like I remember, I guess I can only relate it to my own experience, but it was like after my sophomore year, it was like Trayvon and Jason Bohannon were leaving, and it was like, all right, I know I'm gonna start, I know I'm gonna have an opportunity, and it was like, all right, I can take advantage of this, and I knew John was gonna be a great I knew John since we were like 13. I knew we'd have a great chemistry together. So it was an exciting time, exciting summer. So
yeah, no, and you definitely took advantage of your junior year. I mean, you had one of the best seasons in Wisconsin history. I mean,
appreciate it.
We'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, that team had a legit big 3, and let's not forget Nankivil.
Yep.
Nankivil was the ultimate team guy, and he was all from afar. I mean, I'm not within the program, but from afar, it just seemed like Nankivil was just the team guy, and he wanted to win. He wasn't like a me guy. Like he just casually shot a 45%, 3-point percentage, average a block a game. But he wasn't like forcing. He would never force anything.
Facts.
Keaton, how good was Nankivil?
Keaton was really good, man. Keaton's one of those dudes where like I think he probably should have been more selfish at times, and he probably. Because his talent level was pretty high. I don't know. John got a lot of credit for shooting that year, and John could shoot the piss out of the ball too, obviously. But I don't know if I've seen a big man to this. I haven't seen a lot of big men shoot the ball the way Keaton shot the ball. Like he was coming off pin downs at 6'8", 6'9", like, and it was kind of taken for granted, like, oh, Wisconsin big man. But if you go back through the archives, like. No other Wisconsin big man really shot the ball like shot the ball like Keaton. Like he was. I remember when I think it was we playing Ohio State, the game that we came back, and I remember we got like a steal or a rebound or something, and I pushed it across. I pushed it across the timeline. And I threw like a cross court pass to Keaton, and he ran into it 1-2 step like a guard, and I was like. I was like, yo, what? Like, I remember thinking, like, during the game, like, shit, like, excuse my language, but I was
No
like,
worries, man.
I was like, that's tough. Like, that's not an easy shot for someone 6'9". And now you
No.
see everybody shooting threes. But this is in 2010, 2011, where it's like, it wasn't going like that. And it was like John was a guy who, when he gets his feet set, and John has all those things too, off the dribble, his
Yeah.
mid range and all that. Like Keaton didn't quite have that. But in terms of like getting your feet set and coming off screens and picking and popping, like Keaton was unbelievable.
100%. He was the real deal, and
Yeah.
it's kind of, I feel like there's been a few guys who've come through Madison who I felt like were almost too unselfish. Where I follow you guys in summer league, and sometimes I feel like in summer league you can just tell like they're too unselfish because everyone in summer league is like the NBA summer league is trying to get their own.
Yeah.
And then I'd see like Badgers who are like not hunting for their shot. They're playing like a team. Well, they're the only guy playing like a team player while everyone else is just trying to get their own.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I struggle with that myself. I know I've talked to John about that too, but it's like, I mean, it's hard to spend. That's probably where the stigma comes in about the NBA stuff with Wisconsin is like, we have guys who can play that way. Like, we have the capability, but we're just not trained to do that. That wasn't Coach Ryan's system, and Coach Ryan had success. So why would we not buy in?
Yeah.
But as a player, when you do something all the time, it's hard to just switch over and, kind of start playing that way. Like I remember for the first like 2 years after school, I think I watched every basketball game, NBA, high school, college, and it was like Coach Ryan's voice was in the back of my head. And it's like, what I'm saying is like, you're ingratiated into that. So it's hard to shake, and you have to shake at the pro level just because it's a little bit of a different game. But that's definitely there, especially in the summer leagues and stuff.
Yeah, and especially when you're trying to like make it on your own. I mean, it's I think it can benefit you guys. When you make it, when the goal is all about winning. But really, is the goal about winning when you're playing in the summer league or even in the D League or the G League? Like, is the goal ultimately about winning? I mean, I feel like it could benefit you when you get to where you need to be, like when you're overseas, when you're in the NBA, where you're a team guy. But when you're trying to get your own, I feel like that's a different story.
I don't know how many places where the goal is actually about winning anywhere in pro basketball.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, like like if you look at the NBA, I shouldn't say it's not about winning. I think there's levels to winning. So the goal is not winning a championship in pro basketball. But you look at the NBA, probably this year there's probably more, but typically there's like 5 teams that you're like, all right, they have a chance to win a championship. And the rest are just kind of like, all right, we'll get a 4 seed. We're trying to develop a few guys. We're trying to build towards the next season, see who can be here with us, yada, yada, yada. My first year overseas, again, we were picked to finish like 12th in our league because we had a bunch of rookies. Like myself, I was a rookie. We had a bunch of young guys, and then we had some older guys who were like unheralded guys coming off injury. So I remember we played a team, Olimpia Milano, which is like the biggest team in Italy. They're EuroLeague team, all this. And we played them 4th game of the year. And our GM comes in and he was like, we probably lose by 30, but, I just want you guys to go play hard. And I was like, what? Like that. So, coming from Wisconsin, we expect to win every game. Like, where you lose a game, you're in the locker room sad, like you just lost the championship. And so we went there and, we ended up losing by like 4 points or something like that. But we had a chance to win. And then the season goes on. We lost in the championship that year. But we had guys like, I don't know if you know, like Gigi Datome, who he won the MVP that year and he played in the NBA for a while. We had Gani Lawal, who went to Georgia Tech and got drafted. We had a really talented team. But it was just like people have this perception of you and where you're at in your career. And it's like they just put you in this box. So it's like I said, just in a roundabout way, like, winning is, I don't know if winning's the goal in a lot of environments. So
that's interesting. I mean, see, that's why I have you on. I mean, that's the professional take that everybody as fans, we don't really get that or understand that.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a lot of politics that go on, and a lot of things that aren't necessarily fair or and you look at the basketball, it's purest form. It's about scoring more points than the other team, but there's a lot more to the game than just that. And especially once you get to the pro ranks and get money involved and
it's pretty crazy. Cause I mean, even as growing up, like you think like, we're watching the Bulls or I was a Timberwolves fan. So I'm like, oh, Kevin Garnett and Sam Cassell, they're best friends. They hang out off the court, like yada, yada, yada. Or Kevin Garnett and Wally's like, I'm like thinking everybody gets along. But then once you're in it, you're like, oh, no, it's not quite like that. Like everybody has their own agenda. Rightfully so. Because like you said, it's a business and, we live in you got to look out for yourself, honestly, to a degree. So
every man for himself.
For real.
All right, so now we're going to go on to your Badger experience here. So first question, what was the deciding factor in going to Madison, and was there any memorable visits you had?
To Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Yeah. My deciding factor, honestly, was my two seniors when I was a freshman in high school. Both went to Wisconsin. Two of my I was on the varsity team, and they were cool. Like they always took care of me, and they went to Wisconsin. So when they went to Wisconsin, I was like, oh, that's dope. And then Wisconsin came in the picture, and I was thinking about that. And I went to a football game, and I got to hang out with them, and I saw how they were hanging out and like partying and chilling and just having a good time. And I was like, shoot, this is for me. So I was like, that's all I need to see. And honestly, I had no idea what the swing offense was at the time. Like had no clue when I committed. I was like, it was different back then because it was like I don't think you were necessarily committing to schools as like a fit, because a lot of programs were, I don't want to say they were cookie cutter, but it wasn't like, oh, I can, this team plays pick and roll, I'm a fit in here, or I can do this in this system like that. I don't think the game was quite as much like that then. So I was just like, you know what, wherever I go, I'm gonna figure it out. My high school team, I came from, I averaged damn near a triple-double in high school. I got the rebound. We were pitching ahead, fast break. We were trying to score 90 points a game. So, when I got to college and people were like, oh, it's perfect fit for the swing. And I was like, no, the fuck I'm not. Like, I like to run up and down, like yada, yada, yada. So, like, I was like, I'm best in transition, finding guys and stuff like that. But, so yeah, the biggest thing was definitely just the campus and the atmosphere at the football games. And then I think I went to, they played – Cam Taylor is from Minneapolis, and I've known him since I was a kid. And they beat Pitt. I think it was Pitt when they had like Aaron Gray, and it was a 7-2 game on ESPN. And the basketball, I was like, oh, this is it. This is rocking. And then I went to one more against Michigan State. I think when Ray Nixon was there, I can't remember exactly. Like I said, so long ago, but either way, the Kohl Center, both times I went, Camp Randall, both were like the environments. Like I was barely, at one point, like, it's like I was barely watching the game, and I was more just like looking around, like, well, yeah, I could see myself here. So it's pretty simple.
100%. Like the Kohl Center. So we're talking that Michigan. I was at that Michigan State game where Cam Taylor hit the game winner. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
That was nuts. Like the Kohl Center, you go back to 2006, 2007. The Kohl Center was nuts back then.
It was crazy.
I mean, the fans weren't as spoiled as they are today with all the consistently making the tournament, consistently top 5 seeds. They got 2 Final Fours in there, 3 since 2000, but 2 recent Final Fours. Honestly, now the Kohl Center is a snoozer. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, it's honestly sometimes I feel like it's a home court disadvantage. I don't want to. I might not put this in the show, but like, I mean, it's literally you got like old people like what the shot clock's like winding down and nothing's like happening. The old people are like gasping, like, "What's going on here?" Like it's ridiculous. And then they get on certain players where they're just like. All they do is complain. And I had tickets to one game this past year where I had pretty good seats.
Yeah.
And it was the Purdue Wisconsin game. And it's the biggest game at the Kohl Center, honestly.
The one where Chucky hit the backboard shot?
Yeah. So probably you were there.
Yeah.
And I stand up after like a big play, and the guy next to me goes, You don't sit here often, do you? And I'm like, well, no. And he's like, we don't do that around here. Like I shit you not. Like he's like, that's not what we do here. I was like, oh, we don't stand at a sporting event. in the biggest game in probably 10 years at the Kohl Center. I mean,
Yo, for real. I've heard that. I've heard people complaining about that. I saw it on like Twitter and stuff like that. But I haven't been to a game in so long. But it doesn't. You know, it's crazy though. Like you said, like people start winning. I compare it. What I can compare it to is like the Chase Center now in Golden State. Like you can feel it on TV. Like when the Warriors were going those runs when they were at Oracle.
yeah.
Like that was, you could feel that energy. Like if you were in a living room in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or in Europe, like you could feel that energy. Whereas like now it's probably become a little more corporate and like it's not quite the same. So that's but that's a wild story. I can't believe that.
No, it was ridiculous. Like here's my theory. It's like I'm not 100% familiar with it, but I believe when the Kohl Center is first built, the season ticket holders are grandfathered in.
Yeah.
And you know, say back then they were like 50. Well, now they're all 70 something.
Yeah.
60. Now they're all 80 something. So they might have had some rowdiness back in the day, but now they just want to sit, and it's like church for them. Like don't stand up when you're not supposed to.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess I've never put much thought into why, but that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Hopefully, you know, I mean, no, I'm not gonna say that. I don't want to put no ill will on nobody, but
I'll say it. Receipt.
Yeah.
All around the bowl.
Yeah, they might have to make it. I know they were trying to do something like Area Red, right? Which seemed like it was pretty cool, and having the DJ or whatever, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully, you know, it definitely needs some fresh blood. I thought on TV that it seemed like the energy was good for that Purdue game, but
I will say it was.
But it's still, to your point, I don't know if it hit quite like those games I remember when I was a kid, for sure, when I was going on visits and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you know what? I will say that Purdue game was the exception. Like that game, they went all out on social media. I mean,
like whiteout, right?
Yeah, what was that?
It was a whiteout, right?
Yeah, it was a whiteout, and it was the first time, and I barely even remember, but you had like students lined up like super far outside, and it was like one game where all the old people gave it their all. Like, you know, there were some grumpy ones who didn't want to stand, but the old people as a whole, they gave their all, and it was nuts. Like it was reminiscent of the old school, you know, the Ohio State game when you were there, the Duke game. Or, you know, like the Pittsburgh game back in 2006. So
that Duke game was crazy too. I remember. Yeah, that was a rowdy game.
Yeah, so it was reminiscent of that, but typically it's nothing like that, even if it's, you know, a pretty big game. So
yeah.
So all right, so I was listening to your role player podcast, and you said after your freshman year, it entered your mind that you were like, you know, the system, you know, not, you know, playing a limited role as a freshman. It was frustrating. You thought of transferring. If the rules, what they were back then, are what they are now, you know, you get immediate eligibility. Do you think you would have pulled the trigger and transferred?
Man, that's a good question. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think that's kind of the cool part of I think that's kind of the drawback of the rule, I should say. Not cool part. That's kind of one of the drawbacks of the rule, because maybe I would have, and I don't know that it would have been like the best choice, just because, you know, all right, you transfer from, you know, Wisconsin to wherever, and it's like you start all over again. And I think for 18-year-old kids, like continuity, I think for everybody, like I think for pros, continuity is the best thing you can have. Like when you're changing teams or environments every year, every 2 years, like it's hard to continue to fit in and get a rhythm, because it's like it's hard to find continuity with players and coaches, and it's like a relationship, you know what I'm saying? Like your first year of your relationship, you're not, everything's, it seems great. It seems great, but you know, it takes a minute to really get on the same page and communicate and do all that and figure out what your dislikes, you know. Yeah. So to answer your question, I really don't know, but I'm glad that I didn't have the option. That's not to say that other people shouldn't have the option. That's just me personally. it was probably best for me to stick it out, which I did, and kind of find your way.
All right. And another rule change is the NIL.
Oh yeah.
Thoughts on that, and how would you have taken advantage of it when you were in college? Because you were the big man on campus. I mean, you, Russell Wilson. I mean, you guys were the men. Heading into your senior year. I mean, you had one of the best seasons in your junior year. I imagine it could have been a very profitable time for you.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know a ton about how NIL is working. Like, you see these big numbers and you see people throwing out like 2 years, 800,000. I think that kid from Miami or wherever. And
He's
like,
never going to play in the NBA too, in my opinion.
yeah, like, so it's like, if that would have been me, great. So obviously I'm a fan of NIL as a player. I think, one thing that I kind of stand on is like, people make decisions and that's fine. And there's goods and there's bads. There's pros and cons to every decision. The pros are that, players are going to get paid and players are going to make some money. They're going to have opportunity to use their brand to make money. The downside is like, all right, is that going to be a distraction for some players? Is it going to be how many players are actually getting paid? Is it going to create jealousy in the locker room? Is it going to, create dissension amongst teams? Overall, I think NIL is a good thing. I think that it's just a wild, wild west right now. And again, I think as time goes on, things will shake themselves out. And I think in the long run, it'll be a positive thing once you figure out how to, I don't want to say regulate, but just kind of figure out how to maneuver in the NIL space. So, but that's going to be a challenge for kids though. And you just hope that kids stay focused and don't get dragged or don't lose sight of what they have going on or their opportunities for $100,000 or even $10,000 in college, because I think a lot of these kids aren't going to be making more than $10,000-$15,000. Obviously, the big players will make a lot of money, but just hopefully the pros will outweigh the cons and people can keep their heads on and focus on what's important.
100%. And I definitely, I could hear a little Bull Ryan in you right there, your perspective there. But I do agree with you, and hopefully the only problem I have with it is I think 100%. Like, where else is there where you can't like be an entrepreneur, like or do your own, make a name off or make profit off your own name? I guess it's a little ridiculous. But the only thing that just seems a little lame to me is just like, okay, who's got the best boosters? Like, this school's got the best booster where they can pay a certain amount, or this former alumni is just like a billionaire and he's going to be buying everybody this. That's my only thing. It's just like, if it comes down to who's the best booster, I think I don't know. I think that's a little lame.
I don't think that really changes the landscape too much, because I think that's probably already happening anyway, like the pay for play stuff. So it's like, I don't know if that's really going to change the landscape too much. And for me, honestly, I think it's best for guys like myself who were in my situation where it was like, all right, after my junior year, it was like, okay, maybe you could be a late first to second round pick. And then after my senior year, it was like second round to undrafted. So I think if I could have made even $100,000, $200,000, whatever it was, $75,000, if that was the case, it kind of changes your decision making for what you're going to do at the next level.
Yeah.
So I think those are the guys, honestly, that NIL is best for, going to benefit the most, because it's like, all right, now maybe I can play. I'm not so concerned about making money right now. Not that I even was, but it's like, shit, I have $100,000 in my bank account. I can go play in the G League for 2 years, or I can really try and make a push at the NBA or make this decision. Instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna get 150,000 overseas and 70,000 here. Like, it just takes out an added layer of the decision making process. Whereas like the people like Zion and Tyus Jones and Paige Becker's, like, all right, they're gonna sign their rookie contracts, and they're gonna $6 million out the gate anyway. So that 500,000 they made in college with the NIL is like still a lot of money. Don't get it twisted. And I don't think you can ever have too much money, but it's I think not as big of a factor for them.
So we go Zion Williamson to Tyus Jones. Any of the names you can name the last 8 years, You go with those two, and I believe you're friends with Tyus Jones, right? Or
Yeah,
you
that's
know him
my
for a
guy.
long time?
That's my guy. That's my guy. Yeah.
Yeah, if the year was like 2016, man, you'd be triggering some Badger fans by bringing up Tyus Jones. What was it like? Because you've known Tyus for a long time. What was it like watching Wisconsin in the championship versus a guy who you're good friends with, and Tyus Jones? And was there any mixed emotions there when Tyus Jones was popping off in that second half? What were your thoughts when that was going on?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't as close with Tyus then as I am now, but even to this day, I'll still make fun of him for doing all that head flopping and stuff like that. Like, like I'm doing all that him and Grayson Allen doing all that flopping. But
And the
I
hand check.
mean,
Don't forget, like they were literally picking up like full court, just like hand checking
yeah,
nonstop. And Tyus
yeah.
went up. He went up. He elbows Bronson in the face. It gets called for an and one.
Yeah. It was,
But yeah, keep going. My fault.
No, you good. It was a lot. I actually remember that vividly. That whole game is a funny story, but I obviously wanted Wisconsin to win. I wanted Tyus to do well. But I was definitely cheering for Wisconsin, no question. It was still like Frank was still there, and all. I think all the freshmen when I was a senior were still there. So I was like, it was a little heartbreaking to watch that, and it was worse because I wanted to go, but I was in Israel and I was watching the game, and there's like this 65-year-old Badger alum at this bar called Mike's Place on the beach in Israel. It's like 4 a.m. or whatever time. I think it's something like that. And they had a projector, and this dude was just talking my ear off the whole time. And he's like, just talking my ear off. And he's like, yeah, I went to Wisconsin back in 72 or whatever it was. And he's like, I really love the Badgers. Some of my favorite players, he was like Marcus Landry, and he's naming off these guys. And he's like, and I really love this kid, Jordan Taylor. He used to be there. And I was just like, yeah, he was all right. He was all right. So we just had a whole conversation. I never said anything throughout the entire conversation. And I was like, there was times where I told him I went to Wisconsin, and there was times when Tyus would score, and I'd be like, that was a nice move, whatever. And he was like over there looking at me, kind of giving me a funny eye. So, but I remember watching that game vividly. It was a great game. Tyus is a flop, and Wisconsin should have won.
Dude, how'd you resist the urge to tell him? He's like literally talking about you. I would have been able to hold it for a little bit, but I would have been like, I'm that guy you're talking about right now. I'm that guy.
What's crazy is like, I think when you're in college, like if people see you on campus and stuff like that, it becomes kind of overwhelming, like just to always have people coming up to you. And that's on a small scale. Like we were actually talking about with some of my friends last night, like if you could choose one NBA player, who would you be? And a couple of my friends were like Luka Doncic or LeBron. And I was like, I'd probably rather be like John Lure, to be honest, because it's like, or maybe like, or even Tyus, because like shit, you can move freely, and people like, okay, in Minnesota, Memphis, people are probably gonna mob Tyus, but Tyus and John, they can go to LA, and John's 6'10", so people are probably gonna, look at him a little funny, but overall, you can kind of move freely and just kind of live your life, and you still have all the money, and you played in the NBA, and you got to do all that, and you played on winning teams. Both of them had playoff runs with the Grizzlies. So it's like you get to do all those things, and then you still obviously can afford all the perks of being ultra rich. So it's that's why I didn't really say anything, because it's like, I don't know, that's really not for me. Yeah.
No, I respect that. No, I respect that, because I don't think a lot of people are wired that way. I feel like in the day and age we're living in, everyone wants every attention that they can get. So I have respect for that.
Yeah, I think it's nice to get attention and respect for what you're good at. Like you want to be acknowledged for, I think especially as a basketball player, for me, like you want respect from your peers. Like, all right, like, yeah, he's a good player. Like I respect your game, yada yada yada, and from fans too, for sure. But after that, there's so many people who are just not going to respect it regardless. Where you try not to put too much value in that.
Your sophomore year is when your role really expanded, particularly when John Lure got hurt and you were inserted into the starting lineup. And that was an interesting thing, because there was a 3-guard starting lineup, and you guys were all 6'3" or below, between you, Trayvon Hughes, and Jason Bohannon. What was it like being a part of that trio? And how did getting that opportunity your sophomore year set up your big junior year?
Oh man, that was that really made a big difference, because like I think I think it was like during my sophomore year. I think there's a transition period at any level. Like for me, like you talked about earlier, like I was probably, I think at some point I was like maybe like 99th ranked recruit, and then maybe it was like 110 or I don't know what it was. I don't remember. But so like your freshman year is like you're kind of finding your way, especially at Wisconsin. Like other places when you're thrown into the fire, it's like, all right, you figure it out your freshman year. But I wasn't really thrown into the fire. I just played 10 minutes. So my sophomore year, especially when John got hurt, it was like, all right, I really don't have a choice. I have to, I got to figure this out. Otherwise, we're going to lose games. And I was like, I'm damn sure not going to be the reason that we're losing, like, because John's out. So, I think it was just one of those things where also sharing the court with Trey and Jabo takes pressure off of you, where it's like, all right, you can kind of, your job is kind of to get them going a little bit, but also it's like, missing shots or doing whatever mistakes, they alleviate a lot of that pressure as having when you have other guards out there, guys that can bring the ball up or make a play. So I think that was really big for my development going into my junior year, where it's like, because Wisconsin, at the pace we play, one of the issues with that pace is like I think there is like pressure on the shots you take because there's not very many of them, and it's like you have to be efficient. If you're not efficient, then it's going to be tough for us to win. Whereas opposed to like if you're getting up and down, it's like, all right, make or miss. As long as you're getting a good shot, the more shots you take, you're going to shoot a good percentage. So you know what I mean. But it was that sophomore year was huge for me, just being able to play with those guys and seeing how they made plays and took pressure off of me. And then going into junior year, it was like I felt like I was really comfortable going in, like I knew exactly what I had to do.
So you, as a junior, had one of the best seasons in UW history where and these stats are insane. I got it right here. You averaged 18.3 points a game, 4.7 assists, 4.1 rebounds on a team. I want you to keep this in mind, on a team that only averaged 67.9 points per game. All right. So your field goal percentage was great. You were 42.9% from three on the season, but I want to focus on conference play. In conference play, you really popped off. You were averaging 20.1 points per game and shot 46.7% from three. I mean, that's nutty. Like on a team that averaged 68 points per game, to average 20 points per game, like that, and at a very efficient percentage as well. I mean, that is nuts. You led this country in assist to turnover ratio your junior year. How close were you to going pro, and why did you end up coming back?
I was really close. Like I remember sitting in the office with my dad and my AU director at the time, it was Renee Pulley, and just having a conversation with the agent from BDA at the time, and I was literally about to leave. I was going to make an announcement, going to leave, and then the uncertainty of the lockout and all that, and I personally, I really wanted to win or go to the Final Four. Like that was always my dream. And it's like, I didn't come from a family where like my dad's a financial advisor, so he didn't really know the process of NBA, stuff like that. So I was asking questions outside and stuff like that. And I think one of the big things for, especially a guy like myself, who obviously I'm talented, but I'm not, I'm not Zion Williamson. So it's, you have to, I think it's key to go when your name is hot.
Sure.
And like you have to take advantage of all the hype and momentum that you have. And I didn't really understand that at the time. I'm thinking like, shit, I did this year. Like you said, I shot 46%. That's hard to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, shit. And that's just the way I think. I was like, I did it this year. I'll do it again next year. Like, no problem. And so it's just one of those things. And I was like, I really want to go. I was like, I'll go to the Final Four. I'll do it again next year. And I'll just come out after that. And that's literally was my thought process. Like, no problem. Easy.
Not a ton of people know this. And shout out to the Role Player Podcast. I learned this listening to your podcast that you, heading into your senior year, you had an ankle injury that was really bothering you, where you lost some elevation. You didn't move like you did, in the past. And you ended up realizing that it wasn't an ankle and foot. It was a hip that was throwing everything off. When did those injuries come into play and start bothering you?
Yeah. So I think going into my junior year, I was working out. I was going to Darren Williams camp, and I was working out in the gym, and I did like a Euro step type movement and workout. And like my ankle, like just kind of gave out, and I ended up having to have surgery. And that whole summer, I ended up having surgery. The whole summer I wasn't quite right. I came back and it was like I said, always like just couldn't quite get off the ground and move how I wanted to. And then, I thought it was like I got like 5 MRIs on my knee that whole season, and it wasn't. They were like, "There's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you." I was like, "Damn, like nah, this don't feel right." Like, so then, like I said, came back after my rookie year overseas, and they were like, I got an X-ray, and like, oh, your hip's messed up. So I was like, damn, that makes sense because I haven't been able to like just the range of motion. It always feels like locked, and it always feels like locked. And so I ended up having to get hip surgery midway through my second year overseas. And then, unfortunately just had bad luck throughout my pro career with injuries. So, I think I had like 8 surgeries in like 9 years up to this point. So it's, it just happens as part of the game and stuff like that. But yeah, so that was definitely tough. And like you said, with like your mind, I think Coach Close, who was there he always said like, you're a really good player when you're healthy. But when you're injured, it's just not the same. And he meant that about he's saying it specifically to me. And again, at the time when you're 20, you're not thinking like that. You're like injury, like I don't get injured, especially in that time. Like we played through. Like now it's like people will sit down. Like you see Tyler Harrow sitting down games 3, 4, 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't even know what's wrong with them, which is probably smart. It's probably a smart thing to do. Protect your career and do all that. But back in like the way we grew up in 2010, for real, for real, like old for real. Back then it was like, nah, play through that or you're soft, which is stupid. It was really stupid. So yeah, that was definitely a mental. It was tough to go through mentally for me. Just because I honestly haven't been quite right since. I've always been battling injuries, and that's a tough thing to go through when you can't quite play your game the way your body and your mind don't match up on the court. It's like, you can do this. Your mind's like, oh yeah, go left. And your body's just like, that ain't. So,
I mean, that's supposed to happen like where you lose a step or you lose some elevation. That should happen when you're 32. Not like what you are now.
Right, exactly.
Not when you're 22.
Exactly.
I mean, that really sucks. And so the Darren Williams camp, that was heading into your senior year?
Yeah, that was heading into my senior year, I think June of my senior year. Matter of fact, that was like I sat down at that camp because it was like my knee was messed up and so yeah, whole bunch of stuff. That's why I think when D Rose scored 50 when he was in Minnesota and he came back and scored 50, I think I teared up that game because I was like my timeline with D Rose, like he won MVP 2011, and I think I had one of probably best year of my life or career 2011, and then when he had all those injuries, like I was like damn, like, and I had the same agent as D Rose, like so. Okay. I felt I met this man once in my life, but I just felt like connected to him. So when he scored 50, I kind of was like, damn, like, all right, you can, as part of the reason I'm still hooping is like to try and find, I just want to have, one really healthy season and play well. So it's definitely a journey, and it's fun to go on, but trying at times.
Oh, dude, that is tough. It's just really bad luck, and so much of life is timing, opportunity, fit, luck.
For sure.
And yeah, you got to have all those working for you a lot of times when you're trying to get to a certain spot or make a certain goal. Like there's plenty of people who are good enough to do something, but they just never had, the luck or the right time. So,
yep,
man, that's that is tough to hear. And yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I guess that.
No problem. Still going, man. Live another day. Just keep trucking.
Yes, sir. And how did you adapt your game to, knowing like heading your senior year, like, hey, I don't have the same bounce or the same, lateral quickness or whatever it is that I did last year. How do I adapt my game and, make changes for that?
Yeah, honestly, my senior year, I didn't adapt. I just tried to run through a wall. And it was like, because I mean, honestly, I had no idea what was going on. It was like you said, I was 20, 21 or 22. So I was just like, go harder, like figure it out, go harder. I didn't really, I worked with Henry Perez Guerra. He was amazing, trying to help me get through it. Like he had me in the training room he was literally forcing me to do rehab when I didn't want to do it. So, so yeah, I just, just play through it, go hard, and try and hope for the best, honestly. But it definitely plays in your mind. I remember there's like a game where I was like in Minnesota. I think I had like 25 or something like that, and went to overtime. And I felt good for once. Like it's probably maybe one of the best I felt all year. And I remember being like nervous in the middle of the game. Like I didn't want to shoot because I didn't want to mess up my percentages at one point because I was like, damn, I like feel all right. So I was like, I don't know if I jump off my right leg, like if it's gonna give out or something like that. So I was like, I remember being cautious while playing, but no, just as you get older though, the game slows down, and now not feeling the same. It's easier. You can kind of manipulate your body and yourself into playing with guys that are more athletic when you're once you turn like 28, 29.
Okay, well, good deal. And then was the culture okay, you kind of already answered this, but the culture when you were in college is like, hey, you play through this, we don't make it public, you don't let people know that you're hurt. Was that kind of the way it was?
Yeah, because I mean it was also like I think so. I think Coach Ryan in Wisconsin, I think that's just how, like you said, that's how everybody was, and you play through stuff like that. But at the same time, it was like it's not like they were just neglecting me, be like, oh, play hurt. I kept going to get MRIs and looked at and stuff like that, and just couldn't find anything. So it was like almost like you're not hurt, but I knew something wasn't right for sure the whole year. We just couldn't figure it out. And that hip surgery that I had is the same surgery that Isaiah Thomas had, and it wasn't like, I think when I got the surgery, it was like maybe an 8 to 10-year-old surgery or something like that. So it was something that was really pretty new in terms of sports medicine and stuff like that. So that's the other thing, like you said, with timing. I think it's just bad luck in which injury and how to deal with it. I think you see like ACLs now, and people come back from ACLs and they're more athletic. They jump higher, they move better. Whereas
it happened to me. I mean, I'm not you. I'm not a
but for real though.
Yeah, I mean, you can barely see the scar for my ACL surgery.
Yeah,
and, go back 15, 20 years. They
ending
had like
guys'
a train
career
track on their leg.
Yeah, and potentially ending guys' careers for real. So it's like So that's another part of time. But even if you don't play sports, like that stuff is the worst, because it's like it affects the way you move in daily life. I feel like that is miserable when you can't move, even if you're like you said, even if you're in banking and you're just going to the office or whatever, like not being able to move, that is the worst. Like one of the worst feelings.
But it was the ACL. It happened my senior year, and I was just such a late bloomer. Like, you see this beard here. I didn't start shaving until I was like 22 years old. Like, I kid you not. Like, right when I kind of I was coming into my own, and I was I was like 5'5". You didn't start shaving until you're like that old?
Nah. You can go back. You could go back to, like, if you look at like pictures of my junior year, I had like this weird patch like right here, like and stuff like that. It's like, I had a baby face.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel that like a lot. Like I was 5'5" as a freshman in high school, and I was like a little guard.
Yeah,
dude, I would mimic your game so much. Like, it's ridiculous. and I would exaggerate it too. Like, I don't know if you remember, but you shot at like a 3 against North Carolina your senior year where you barely jumped. It was like from the logo, you barely jumped.
Yeah,
I pulled that off in a game. Like, I was like, I'm gonna be like Jordan. I'm gonna be like casual. Like, that's the way I saw it. I was like, I'm gonna be casual. I'm just gonna pull up like 25 feet. I splatter it off the backboard. I got pulled just like that. Like, what the hell? Who do you think you are? Dude, I'm just trying to be like my boy Jordan Taylor. Like,
that's funny as hell.
The other thing, dude, I don't know if you noticed this, but when I watch you play on like defense, especially when you're like off ball, your hands would be very like tense.
Always.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Always, since I was a kid,
and I would see that, and when you would hit shots, your hands, you'd like walk back on, you're like with the swagger, your hands are like this.
Yeah, I think that was just involuntary.
I would see you do that, and you would do that, when you're off ball or when it's time to go to play. But I was like exaggerating the hell out of that, where I'm like getting the passing legs with my hands like going back like this, and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude." Like, other people like Steph Curry, people are copying Steph Curry. Dude, I was copying you.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, my hands. My friends and family make fun of me for that all the time, because they're always like, "Yo, relax." And I'm just like, it's involuntary, bro.
Dude, it looked cool though. Yeah. I was like, that looks cool. I'm gonna start doing that.
That's funny as hell.
But So I'll be remiss if I didn't mention the Ohio State game your junior year. And one of the coolest memories or moments that I ever saw on a basketball court was you popped off that second half. You were on fire, and you literally walked the ball down the court. You stared down Aaron Kraft. You're staring him down, not even thinking about passing, and you just pull up from three, splash it, nothing but net. But I don't think you broke like a jog at all that entire thing. You walked the ball down the court like you were feeling yourself. Like, how green was your light your junior year? And what was Bo's reaction to that shot? Because I know that's not the normal Wisconsin offense.
Yeah, yeah. I think it got greener and greener. I think that Coach Ryan's like the type of coach where he's like where he trusts you, but you have to earn that trust. Me and John both like worked really hard. I worked out with John all summer. And we worked really hard on our shots, on our games. But yeah, by the end of that season, it was super green. It was super green. And that shots is crazy. I actually just talked to Coach Ryan yesterday, and he brought that moment up when I started like beating my chest and stuff like that. And he was like, and I think it's one of those things where if I would have missed it, he probably would have been looking at me crazy. but it went in. So. And honestly, I didn't even have a thought in my mind that it wasn't going in at the time. It's like I was like, shoot, our whole team was rolling. Like I remember Mike made a shot from Bruisewitz made a shot from the top of the key. I already talked about that shot that Keaton made, going down the court. And it was just one of those games where you like almost like blackout. Like I honestly remember just being on. I remember that whole game vividly, and I remember being on the court and like. You hear the crowd and you feed off the energy, but it was like you don't even I don't even recall like anything but like the basket. There was times on defense where I was just I don't remember playing defense because I think I was shooting the ball so well. So it was fun.
Your hands were too tense on defense.
Yeah, that's I had to block that out.
So did your confidence level was already pretty high heading that game. Do you think it reached another level after that? Because I know I remember like there, I don't know if it was like a point guard watch list or something like this. I vaguely remember this, but I think like a top 10 like point guard watch list for an award or something like that came out. You weren't on it.
Yeah.
Like right before that game. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's the Koozie list. Yeah, it's the Koozie list. And they went back and added me after that game.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that perfectly because I was kind of disappointed I wasn't on it. And then because I felt like I was having a crazy good year at the time. And then after that, I think like I'll never forget. I should have known that I wasn't going to the NBA because I think one thing I always remember is like turn it on like First Take. I think was just new at the time. And Skip Bayless was talking about me, and he said this kid has a super bright NBA future. I guess I should have known then. It was like, it's gonna be tough. You don't want Skip Bayless to your corner, man. Yeah. So I do remember that. That was amazing. Obviously, that was a great time, like in my college career. And anytime you get that kind of love, it was fun. It was definitely fun. But
absolutely, dude. So. Was that your favorite game of all time? Like you had a lot of special moments from the Duke game, the Ohio State game, popping off against Penn State as a sophomore, at Ohio State as a senior. A lot of great memories. Was that your favorite game, or do you have another one?
I think it was up there. I think it's like 1, 2, 3, depending on the day. Honestly, that Penn State one was fun because I think I missed like 15 shots in a row between the Michigan game and the Penn State game. I think I was like 0 for 8 and 0 for 6. And I remember we were down like 58-52 or something like that. And I remember J-Bo swung it to me and I just shot it because I was like, fuck it. Like I haven't made a shot. So I was just like, you know what, one of these just got to go in the basket. So I just shot it and it went in and we cut it to 3, whatever. Next time down, I was like, fuck it, do it again. Shot it, made it again. We tied it. They scored, and then I came down. I think I made a layup over Taylor. So I think I hit like 8 in a row, and then I think I had like 0 or 2 points and ended with like 20. And at that was probably for me and my mental was probably one of the biggest games I've ever played in my career, just because it was like the first time. I think it was the first time I had really struggled like that, and then just kind of turned it around that quickly. So I was kind of like I told you before at Wisconsin is like you take, your you're not nervous, but you care about every possession, every shot. And that was really the first time where I was like, you know what, like, fuck it, you just got to keep playing, and just good things are gonna happen if you're aggressive and all that. And I really bought into that after that game.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And he got the approval from Quinn Smith afterwards, which was good. I mean, that had to boost your confidence a little bit.
Man, fuck you, man. No, that's my dog. That's my dog, man. I'll never. I think that was actually a Purdue game where I looked up and I think I had like 23, and I just remember looking up at him in the huddle, and the game was like pretty much over, and I just remember looking up at him, and dude was just sitting there like, or look at him like, fuck out of here. Like I knew what he was saying, but I was like, I give a damn about what you think. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
So, and I want to, and I just want to throw this out there. I was listening to your podcast that for people that have more context about your hip, you had 7 or 8 surgeries since college. Is that correct? I think I heard that in your podcast.
Since my junior year of college, yeah.
Was it all? Is it most of it on your hip there?
I went ankle going into my senior year, ankle, shoulder, groin. No, ankle, shoulder, hip, groin, other hip. Broke my nose in there. You count that one. Knee surgery, and then broke my thumb.
Yeah. The basketball is, it can be tough, man. That's where it's like I almost don't want to just play like recreational hoops, because I know like anything can happen. Any game. It's like all of a sudden, like my day-to-day life is messed up from 6 months because I was playing pickup hoops at the Y.
The safety hazard.
yeah, but no, I mean that's tough. And did he? I thought I heard you say that you had the same surgery Isaiah Thomas had twice on his hip.
I had it twice. I think he just had it on one. I had it on my right and left hip.
That's insane, because that hip injury, he went from like MVP level to almost fizzling out of the league basically.
Yeah.
And the fact that you after that you still, I mean, you didn't have the surgery in college, but you still had a great senior year.
Yeah.
And you still have played a very successful 10-year career overseas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually incredible that you're still, plugging along after that.
Yeah. I mean, I try to take pride, like I said, I always wanted just to get back as close to I was physically at one point, and it's been a journey and a grind. That hip surgery is tough, just especially for small guards. Like, Isaiah Thomas had it. Another dude had it, like Johnny Flynn.
He was cold in college, man.
Yeah, and I think he had it right after his rookie year of. He had I think I always correct, because it is one of those things that's probably that bothers you the most, or bothers me the most about my career, is like when you end up and it's like people don't really know about injuries and stuff like that. And they don't really care. I mean, as they shouldn't. It happens. So it's not. But whenever people talk about Johnny Flynn and they're like, "Oh, the Timberwolves took Johnny Flynn over Steph Curry," and I was like, "Hold on now, Johnny Flynn was a good player his first year. Like Johnny Flynn just got injured. Like I make sure I stand up for all the people that had hip surgery now, because I feel like I'm connecting to them. So yeah, but like I said, it is what it is. It happens, and everybody has setbacks in life or challenges. So just try and enjoy the journey and keep trucking.
Well, it's how you respond to the tough times, and you clearly have responded, and you've had a great career overseas, which is something to be proud of. But I mean, even like I don't know exactly what. Yeah, Greg Oden was knees, but like even Greg Oden, I mean, he gets roasted for being a bust. It's like the dude was insane in college. There's a reason why he was drafted number 1.
Right.
I mean, he was an animal, and it's not really his fault that his knees gave out on him. I mean, it's just it's a freaky thing. It's tough when you when like people don't know what you're capable of or what could have been. They don't really know, especially your senior year, because it wasn't public knowledge. No one knew what was that you were going through what you were. I mean, it was completely on the down low. Who's Wisconsin's biggest rival from a player perspective? I know you're a Minnesota kid, but who's the biggest rival in your opinion?
From like generally speaking, or for me?
Yeah. Let's do both. Let's do both.
For me, it's Minnesota. Like
Okay.
coming from Minnesota, I was like, I just wanted to beat them. Like I
Yeah.
didn't, but I think it's Marquette once you get there and
Okay.
you kind of understand I guess the history or the kind of crosstown, for lack of a better term, rival. I didn't even know Marquette was a rivalry when I got there. But I remember, like, actually, I really didn't. I don't think I completely understood it until my junior year when Josh started playing. Gasser got there, and I remember Josh being like, and somewhat Tim Jarvis, I guess, but Josh was like, "Oh yeah, Marquette, we got to beat Marquette." I was like, "What the fuck about Marquette? Like, what you mean?" But he's a Port Washington, Milwaukee area kid, so it's like it meant a lot to him, and that's when I really, really started. Like, all right, yeah, that's a big one. So.
Is Marquette little brother?
I don't think it's any debate that it's a Badger state. Like, like you go anywhere, it's Packers and Badgers in Wisconsin. That's what it is. So yeah, no
It
question.
is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't think there's a debate.
Yeah, no, they get fired up for that game though. They've done well in that game. In the matchup. But when you look at the end of the season, you look at what happens in the tournament. It's night and day. It's not even really a comparison. And sometimes I feel like that a lot of the players are like you in that situation where Marquette's like all geared up, they're ready to go in that game. And then like there's I feel like there's like there's players from Ohio on the team or wherever, and they're like they don't understand that Marquette is geared up. Like they go into the, now it's the Fiserv or the Bradley Center in your day. That place is rocking for that game. Like it
really
insane.
is.
And
it really is.
I feel like it's almost like I didn't know this was coming,
Right. Yeah, it really is. Honestly, I just assumed every game was going to be rocking in a big arena. So I wasn't like that. That's just what I thought. I didn't know there was extra juice or anything like that, especially because I think we went there my freshman year when they had like Wes and Dominic James and Jarrell McNeil and all that. But that was probably the best team I played against that one. But they had good teams the whole time. They had like Jimmy Butler and Lazar Hayward and Dwight Bikes, DJO. They always had good players. So Jay Crowder.
They did was the biggest keyword. They did. That did.
It fell off now, huh?
Yeah, no, it's just it is what it is. Everyone's like, oh, Marquette's, they're producing NBA talent. Like they did when Buzz was there.
Right.
What have they done since?
Right. Right.
Dude, and that game, I remember that game vividly. That was 2008, your freshman year. I was staying with my grandma and my grandpa that day. And I was watching that game, and you guys had it under control.
Yeah.
Like you guys had the lead, and I think it was a later game. And my grandparents, I was in 5th grade at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, you have to go to bed. Like it's late right now. You have to go to bed. I'm like, I don't want to go to bed. Like they're gonna lose if I go to bed. And they're like, no, Wisconsin's got this thing won. And so they're like, you're going to bed. I'm like, all right, fine. And sure enough, I wake up the next morning. You guys lost by like 3. Like you got to be kidding me! I knew this was gonna happen. If I would have watched, you guys would have won that game.
Right?
But it just I wasn't watching, so it just went haywire.
That's funny as hell.
So, in talking about tough losses, that Syracuse game bothers me 10 years later, and I'll tell you why. It's because you guys played really well. And they played really well. Like both teams played a great game. It was a very emotional game. You were a senior, they had some seniors, and it just felt like everyone was on their game. But they had some calls that went their way in the first half. Particularly Bergwin was tearing apart their 2-3, and he picked up 2 cheapies in my opinion. In the second half, some black charges went their way. I'm not blaming the game on the ref because they played a great game. But it's just one of those games where it was so heartbreaking because I think you guys might have played one of your best games of the season, if not the best, and you came up 1 point short. What do you remember about that game, and how did that sit with you afterwards?
Oh man, I remember the back and forth. I remember us shooting the ball really well, Ben especially from 3, and I remember what was it like at the end of the game they missed a free throw, and I remember like I just vividly remember to this day that was probably there was a loose ball, and I think there had to be like it felt like there was like 8 guys on the ground like crawling on top of each other trying to get to the ball, just being like, damn, like everybody wants to win this shit bad.
Yeah.
And I think we ended up with the ball, and I vividly remember the last play because Coach Ryan kind of let me. He didn't let me, more or less let me drop the last play, and we just didn't execute it the right way. We wanted to slip into that soft spot area in the middle of the zone, and wires just got crossed. And I think I ended up having to like heave one up from deep, and it just ended up not being a good shot. And I actually always I've watched that, and I've kind of replayed it. The older I've gotten, the more I've learned the game and like what I would do differently, like in that situation, just because maybe I want to go into coaching after and stuff like that.
Sure.
So that's probably what I remember the most. And then I remember playing in the Garden, and that was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I remember it was packed, it was loud, it was honestly, you don't really get those type of environments. If you're not playing in EuroLeague, you don't get that environment overseas a whole lot. So I definitely miss that. So
yeah, no, that game was intense, and it's just like it was just one of those things where sometimes I feel like in the tournament there's like a little magic with like seniors, like they pop off like one last time. And I remember you had a shot where like the shot clock was winding down. There's like you get it with a few seconds left, and you pull up and. I don't know. He turned back the clock, but you got up on that, man. You got up like the hit was 100%. And they had 2 guys contesting that, and I just knew that shot was going in. Like I don't know what it was, but that game, like it seemed like Rob hit a big 3 in crunch time. Like it was just that was one of the best games I ever saw, and it just sucks that come up we're this close to making Elite 8. And I remember afterwards, Boeheim's like. We knew they were really good, but we didn't know they were that good. Like that was a really good team we just beat.
Yeah. I just remember we would have played Ohio State, and I still talk to Jared Sullinger to this day. Like, man, like we would have beat y'all to go to the Final Four that year because I think we had just beat them like maybe a couple weeks earlier in Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I think Sully, I got into him on Twitter this year because he was talking about Wisconsin can't win on the road, and I was like, man, your last home game of your college career, you lost to us. So I don't know what you're talking about. So I always give him a hard time that we would have bust their ass and gone to a Final Four or 2 after. So
yeah, and this past year specifically, like I don't know if I ever felt this confident on the road than I did this year because Wisconsin had a junkyard dog leading the way in Johnny Davis. Like it's just when you have a guy that talented, and then he had tough guys all around him. I mean, Brad is a tough dude. Chucky. I mean. I looked at games like at Michigan State. Normally it's like, oh, it's at Michigan State. I don't really know about this one, but it's like, okay, it's at Michigan State. Like we got Wisconsin's got some guys who can
get
take
it done.
Care of business.
That was the one place I didn't win to was at Michigan State, and we were up 9. To see them win there was cool. Actually, see them win there this year. Game. Yeah, that was cool. That was definitely cool to see them win. So
and I mean, you're not the only one. Before the COVID season, they won on the road, and they won this past year. But before that, it was since like Devin Harris.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
So, and I also want to throw this in that despite your hip injury, you still had a phenomenal senior season where you were all Big Ten, first team all Big Ten. You were clearly the best player on the team, and that team was really good. A 4 seed that made the Sweet 16. It was a point away against a phenomenal Syracuse team for making the Elite 8, and who knows what would have happened after that. But my question is that Cuse team was really good. Who was the best team you played in college? Because that Ohio State team was good. You had that UConn your freshman year.
Man,
Michigan State as a sophomore.
Wow, that's a tough question. The best team we played. I probably would have to go with that Ohio State team just because Sully was. Sully was probably one of the best. They're probably one of the best teams with the best player on it. Sully was probably in college I don't know if there was anybody more dominant than him, or as dominant as him. Like I think he's kind of an underrated college player, to be honest. Like he was virtually unstoppable. But then they had like you asked the question about Johnny, if he would, gone to Duke or Kentucky, would he be the man? Whereas Ohio State kind of had the reverse of that, and guys like David Lighty, where Lighty was like a Swiss Army knife for them, and if Lighty was at Wisconsin, shit, he might have been our first or second option. So, and Lighty there, he was fourth option. So between like Sully and Lighty and Will Buford and Diebler, and just the way they played together, they were just really hard to guard, and they had so many good defenders. They were versatile defensively. With Will was a solid defender, and then Kraft and Lighty were probably their two best defenders. Kraft always gets all the love for defensive teams and stuff like that, but I mean, I don't think that it was. To me, Lighty's was the best defender on their team, hands down. There was times where he would guard John on a possession, and then next possession he's guarding me, which is like. You see that all the time now in the NBA. Like guys like that in the NBA are getting paid $25 million a year if they can do that and hit a three. And he was doing that back then. So Lighty's one of those dudes where who's the dude from Ohio State that's in the league, Jayshawn Tate now. And no disrespect to him, but I think Lighty's better than him. And
I agree.
It's just one of those like Lighty's an NBA. He was an NBA player and just didn't, he just didn't pan out for whatever reason. So I think that was probably, and then Will was an NBA player too. I think Will was an NBA scorer. I think if he would have came out after his freshman year, he gets drafted. So just talent wise and team wise, it's probably that Ohio State team.
Yeah, and they kind of had that perfect combination of like the young superstar surrounded by a bunch of older veterans who were a bunch of like fringe NBA players. All of them really were like, where it was. If they got the right opportunity, timing, luck, like we talked about earlier, I could have seen a lot of those guys, being, having successful NBA careers, especially Lighty. Lighty, I was actually going to ask you about that. I don't know how Lighty never got a shot in the NBA because like you said, he can do everything on the court.
It is beyond me how that man has not made it to the NBA. Beyond me. So
100%. So do you stay in touch with any of your former college teammates?
Yeah, I actually just texting John Lure right now. Texting John and Tim and Jared. Really all of them, I think as much as I can, like especially JD Wise was my roommate. So I see JD when I can. I'm not overseas. But I mean, that's I think one of the cool things about Wisconsin is, you do stay in touch with pretty much everybody. The older we get, obviously people have families and stuff like that. It's harder to see everybody. But, after school, I think I went to John's wedding, Dan Fahey's wedding, Brett Valentine's wedding, Tim Jarmus's wedding, Jared Bergman's wedding. I think I was gone for Rob's. I talked to Ryan Evans, obviously, Q, so I go on. And then even further, so like guys I didn't play with, like I stay in touch with Brian Butch, Orlando Tucker. So you go on and on and on.
No, that's awesome. And so my last college question for you is, who was the most underrated teammate you had at Wisconsin?
Most underrated teammate. God, it's hard because we were all underrated in my opinion. like Coach Ryan's a great coach and he helped us, and Coach Moore, Coach Close, Coach Guard all helped us develop. But I think when we played in open gyms, you could see the talent come out. Because we're just kind of getting up and down. But I'm gonna go John as one. Okay. But I also would probably give a nod to Rob too, just because Rob had some health issues and stuff in college, and then just some bad timing. And he could really score the ball and guard and stuff like that. So he was I think Rob could have been like a Lighty for us. Honestly, he was really versatile. Wow. Like he was 6'4", 6'5", could shoot it, get to the rim, could guard probably 3-4 positions. Honestly, just didn't really pan out the way that we wanted it to for him. Can we hit pause real quick? I actually have to take this. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, no worries, man.
All right,
no worries.
My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just follow up where we were. So, who do you think was the most underrated teammate you had at Wisconsin?
John. I think John number one, just because look, Frank went I think 7th or something like that. And I think I think Frank is amazing. I think my senior year, you could see the touch and all the potential that Frank had. I don't I'm not going to sit here and BS and be like, if you would have told me he was going to win National Player of the Year, I'd probably have been like, eh. So it was dope to see him get all the way there. But you knew he was going to be an all Big Ten player, potentially All American, and he just blew that off the roof. But I think John was every single bit of that player too. Okay. And I don't think that John, even to this day, like I don't think he really gets the credit that he deserves for the player that he is in Minnesota and in Wisconsin. Like I think John is amazing. He can hoop, and I mean, fortunately, he got $42 million to validate that. But you know, yeah, John was amazing. So I think he's underrated. And then, yeah, like I said, probably Rob and Keaton tied for number 2.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to follow up about Rob is you can have a fluky 20-point game in my opinion, but I don't think I don't think 30 points is a fluke. You got to have some skills and some ability to be able to drop 30 points in a game. Yeah. And you know, Rob's senior year, it wasn't going the way he wanted it to. And I just remember that Iowa game where it just seemed like, okay, the season's winding down. I only have this many opportunities, to leave my mark. Mm-hmm. And he really just, he had a good game against Iowa. And he caught the ball, and I believe the defender overplayed. And Rob kind of turned around, took it to the hoop, tomahawk dunked it. And, he could shoot. He had a really pretty looking stroke. Could score for all 3 levels. And in my opinion, as a fan at the time, some guys would get minutes in front of Rob that I personally didn't agree with. Like, I'm just like, I feel like Rob could have ate a little bit of, some players' minutes. But yeah, Rob was the real deal in my eyes where, yeah, he really could do everything. Like you said, a little bit like Lighty, where he was versatile on defense as well, and he was strong, 6'4", 6'5", whatever he was. And he finished the year, those last 9 games. It was kind of a storybook ending, but he finished the last 9 games of the year, averaging 9.1 points per game, shooting 48% from the field and 44% from 3 on a top 16 team in the country. Yeah. He really flashes ability. He's one of those guys where I wish, he played a little bit his freshman year, actually, but I wish he would have had a redshirt year. Like, I wish he would have had another year to show what he could do.
Yeah,
I was a big-time believer.
Raw ability, he was probably one of the more talented offensive guys we had, and he just, I think it just didn't work out. Like I said, I think at the beginning of our junior year, he got hurt, and Josh just came out and played so well. And it was like, so Coach Ryan just, started playing Josh, which obviously wasn't a bad choice either. Yeah. But, Rob definitely, they're just different guys. Josh is more that, glue guy who's going to play defense, or Rob's a weapon. Rob is definitely a weapon, especially when he has confidence and stuff like that. So,
and you guys went to another level, in my opinion, once Rob became an asset for you.
100%.
To do his thing. I think that gave you guys a different dynamic from, Gosser and Bruss, phenomenal players, but Rob brought some things to the table that they didn't,
Yeah. I think Wisconsin has some of their best teams when they have athletes on the wing.
Yep.
So just looking back objectively, I think Orlando Tucker, Sam, Johnny Davis.
Yeah.
Obviously those guys are the cream of the crop, but just in general, even guys like Ray Nixon way back in the day. So I think Rob, having a dude like Rob always is an asset, especially at Wisconsin. He gives an added element that we don't really otherwise have.
Yeah, 100%. So how did you handle your injury with NBA teams? Did you keep it on the down low that you were hurt? Because, you don't want them to be like, oh, that's a red flag, he's nicked up. But you also want them to be like, hey, like, this wasn't who I was, as a player this last year. Like, I can do more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I never told anybody. Matter of fact, I had Lester Connor was my coach in Atlanta, and he said something to me the second year in summer league. He's like, "Why didn't you say anything that you were hurt?" And I was like, "I didn't want y'all to think that I was hurt."
Yeah.
But and again, it was just a little bit of a different time, different thought process where, I always spent even when I went to play summer league in Milwaukee, I think I had hip surgery in February 21st, and I was in camp with Milwaukee by like June I think like June 21st or something like that. So, and that's 4 months. So, hip surgery, I think typically takes,
Oh
8
yeah.
to 9 months. So I always was, as a young player, I just never really that's probably also a problem. Like I just never really took the time to heal. I was always trying to get back in the gym because I was like, this is my opportunity. Basketball, your window's short.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not taking the time to sit out. And honestly, in hindsight, I probably should have just sat out for whatever, even if it was a year, and just got completely healthy and then gone from there.
Yeah, and do so you kind of had that, the NBA mentality, like, hey, I want to get to the league. Um, now later in your overseas career where, you're going to be playing overseas, do you still have that edge, that, that the eye of the tiger to keep training and working hard, that motivation that you did, when you're trying to break into the league?
Yeah, no question. I think, I love basketball, so I think that you're always like training, trying to get better at it. I think it's more just it's hard to be consistent and get better when your body is never quite right.
Yeah.
But you're always, I mean, overseas is a little different too because you just don't have the resources that you have in the league. So it's more difficult to stay on top of it. Like in college, you have your strength coach, you have people kind of directing you, and in the league, to a degree, like you have if you want to access the gym at 12. Oh, I guess I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure if you want to access a gym or whatever at 12 at night, you can figure something out. Whereas overseas, you don't necessarily have all that access. You don't have the trainers. You don't have the resources to stay healthy. It's more of a figure it out on your own type of environment. So it's especially, and again, at 20, 22, 23, you think you know everything, but you don't know shit. And 25, 26, you probably still don't know shit. So it's definitely a challenge.
Despite your injury, your senior year, you still tested really well at the NBA Combine, and I have some of your numbers right here.
You,
What
go
was
ahead,
that?
keep going, keep
Yeah, I
going.
know. I got you, man. I got you.
You did do your homework.
Oh, 100%. You tested well. You had the second best lane agility time. You had the fourth best three-quarter sprint. You had tied for ninth for the best standing vert. You had a really solid 36.5-inch max vert. You had a good bench press of 14 reps of 185. And you measured, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't truly believe you were this tall. I thought you were listed on the roster at a certain height, but you really weren't. You were a legit 6'1" without shoes. I didn't realize that. But you were 6'1" without shoes and then 6'2" with shoes. Like that's some legit, size and length that I didn't know you had, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's that's funny as hell you say that because I will tell anybody who listens about that combine because I'm like if I was an NFL player my stock would have shot up like my stock would have shot up dramatically, especially given the like the narrative around Wisconsin and my sister's like, oh, is he athletic enough to do this? Can he is he like so yeah, that's good. That's funny you brought that up. And I think they did like a overall testing, and I think I was like top 5 amongst guards or something like that in terms of the testing. But my thing, I have short arms, so my wingspan is only like 6'2", 6'3", or something like that.
Taller than your height.
Yeah, but it's like, all right, those dudes. So it looks different when you have. I think I tested out at you said 36 and a half, and in college at one point it was like 38, and. Yeah, and my max, and it was like, but it just looks different when you're small. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I used to tell people like, nah, I can jump higher than you. My arms are just shy. I have T-Rex arms. I have T-Rex arms. That's my hands get tight, my hands get crampy. So, so no, that's funny. That's funny that you bring that up because to this day I'll still tell anybody who listens about that. But yeah, I mean it is what it is. So that's the other thing about the combine too is we didn't do like 5-on-5. It was literally like shooting, athletic testing, some one-on-ones, and stuff like that. Like we didn't get a chance to play, which is like I had teams would come up to me at the combine or at my workout to be like, "Listen, we know you're best, 5-on-5," and I'm like, "All right, well, that's basketball. Like shit, we play 5-on-5, right? Not 3-on-3 or not 1-on-1, like whatever." So that was a frustrating experience for me at the combine or at just the pre-draft process in general.
Yeah, and like typically, like most normal human beings, their wingspan matches their height. Like typically, but you basketball players, like listen, you say, "Oh, I have T-Rex arms." Like you're 6'1", you still have like 6'3" wingspan. Like that's relatively good. But yeah, then there's like Devin Harris. He measured in at 6'1", in 3/4. That was his height. But I
Yeah.
think he had his wingspan was like 6'8". Like
Yeah.
it was something ridiculous.
There's
And
a kid, I don't know if you know Jerry Smith from Wauwatosa, but
okay.
and went to Louisville. And Jerry, his was like, I think he's 6'1" with a 6'10" wingspan.
Okay.
So Jerry would come down the lane and he'd be punching that and like
Yeah.
punching it hard. And I'm like, people are like, ooh, and I'm just like, man, you're not even getting off the ground like that. Like your arms just like I'm over there hating, doing all that. So yeah, my thing was always I just got short arms. That was always my issue.
I think of John Henson. He was a guy who was really lengthy. And he was like, is he really getting up, or is it just like the dude's just lengthy as hell?
All these dudes, I always like I said, I'll tell people, anybody, like I'm more athletic than you. You just have longer arms. That's it.
Yeah.
Point blank. Period.
And then a follow up on the NBA Combine is I like weightlifting. Can you do more reps of 185 now than you could then?
Oh shit, probably not.
Okay.
I can't remember the last time I benched like with a bar. I think I did
Yeah.
a dumbbell bench, but yeah, I don't even know. Maybe I have no idea. I'm not even gonna try, to be honest with you.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So we talked about this earlier, but you went overseas your whole career. How were you ever close to going to the D League at the time, or no?
Nah, I didn't even think about it because I mean, at that point, guys are making, you know, 13,000, 20,000. Like
Yeah, that is
I think
crazy.
max like 30,000, which is like like in the land. It just didn't make sense for. I think, in my opinion, like I worked and guys work too hard.
Yeah.
Guys work too hard on your game to not like reward yourself and get paid for what you do. And I also think the D League in that sense, kind of from a business perspective, devalued guys. Like you're
Okay.
not putting any pressure unless you're really, really killing. Okay, maybe you'll get a 10-day. But I think personally the best way to do it is like, again, like dating. Like people want people who are, it just is what it is. You want people who are more valued, who have more value. So I
Yeah.
think it's underappreciated taking the European route and raising your value. And then, that at that point it's like, all right, if you're making $1 million overseas, you see guys like, Shane Larkin, Brad Wanamaker, Malcolm Delaney, and they're making, million plus overseas. And now it's like the NBA will come calling and it's like, for what?
Yeah.
I'm making more money over here than you guys are willing to pay me. Like, and it's at that point, it's like, all right, yeah, all right, maybe I'll take less to fulfill this dream. But Shane Larkin just talked about that. He won his back-to-back EuroLeague champs, and he said, obviously that this is better than he could have dreamed because, I mean, he's going to make 10, 12, $15 million playing basketball overseas, and he doesn't even need the NBA. So
Yeah.
it's
You probably, I mean, oh yeah, like Larkin over in the NBA probably is making under $1 million if I had to guess,
yeah, I mean
or
now
somewhere
now
around
now
there.
probably more because I think the people are
Okay.
making so much. But yeah, to your point, yes, you're not making probably as much after taxes, lifestyle, what you have to pay for.
Yeah.
So it's just different.
So yeah, and then the trade off between overseas NBA. Would you say it was if your goal was just solely I want to get to the league, was the better option to go to the D League at that time, or was it to go overseas?
I think if your goal is just I want to touch the league, like I want to just play in the NBA a couple games, whatever. Like I want to have an NBA jersey, then probably the D League G League. But if your goal was to sustain a career in the NBA and stick, I think it's probably the other way, in my
Okay.
opinion. Either way is tough, but um, you know, I think that was probably the better route.
Okay. Well, what do you think the harder transition on and off the court is? High school to college or college overseas?
Ooh. On and off the court, no question, it's overseas. Just because high school to college is tough, and it's kind of shell shock, but if you pick up quick and you make friends, there's no language barrier. There's no like your teammates become your best friends or some of your good friends or whatever. Whereas overseas, again, there's the business aspect of it. You can't drive 3 hours to see your parents or to see your
Mhm.
family or walk across the street to see your friends. Like you're 8 hours ahead of them. You're a 10-hour flight away from them. The food is different thing. Like for me, here in Italy, stuff closes at 8 p.m., which are like just little things like that. There's no 24-hour stuff. Um, and then on top of that, it's not the NBA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're a kid, like you want to play in the NBA and, you don't get the recognition for your craft like you want to being overseas. Whereas high school, going to college, like you're exactly where you want to be. Like this is all right. This is part of the dream. This is part of the plan. That overseas part is not part of the plan. So it's a lot to reckon with mentally.
Yeah. And I have to follow up with that. It's like you're playing on ESPN when you're in college. Like
Yeah.
the games they're they're like a big deal with the people like growing up,
Right.
and like it's a little different when you're overseas. Like I doubt like a ton of people know that who you're playing or if this game is like a big deal overseas. But then there's this thing called the TBT. All right, I have to ask you about this. Is like I watch Marquette and they literally get all their best guys who aren't in the league. They all come together and they put on a really good team. And I'm like, Wisconsin could have a cool team, especially a few years ago when you had like Trayvon Hughes and Marcus Landry. They aged wonderfully. Like they were really good in their 30s. And I'm like, okay, you can throw those two. But even now, you can throw you at the point. You could throw Nigel and even Decker right now. You could throw Decker at the wings, at center. You could throw Hap. I mean, you guys could have a legit team. You're playing on ESPN. You get to reunite with all your old buddies, and you have a chance of getting compensated if you win.
Yeah.
Why has this never happened?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm old. I'm the old guy, so that's I'm far removed. You guys like Vito, Dimitri Trice. They could probably put a team together without me and be just fine. So it's like that's something that they should probably look into. And honestly, now I mean we'll see what happens. Hopefully not, but Frank might be eligible to play in that too. So
you guys easily would.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't think Frank's under contract right now. So yeah, I mean, you put Frank, Sam, Nigel, you get Bronson, you can get that whole band back together, man. And so it's that's not a bad idea.
Okay, here's the best lineup. Objective fact. This is just a fact. Here's the best lineup. Right. We're gonna go you at the point. We're gonna go Brad Davison at the 2, Decker 3, Nigel 4. Let's go Kaminsky at the 5. Bring Hap off the bench. You guys literally. I don't think you'd have a close game, in my opinion.
I don't know about all that.
With Frank and Decker? Like, Decker should probably be in the NBA right now.
Yeah,
Frank had a great year before he got hurt this past season. Once you get to like the Final Four and the championship, it'll probably be tighter, but you guys would be the favorite. 100%.
We'd have a good team. We'd have a good team for sure. We'd be tough to beat, but I'll probably put Bronson in there too. Maybe put Bronson at the 2 instead. I think he's offensively a little more dynamic. I'm a big Bronson fan too.
I'm rocking with Brad, man.
You rocking with Brad? I mean, that's not a bad choice. That's not a bad choice.
Here's Brad's going to clamp down better than Bronson.
That's true.
And I think I'm rocking with Brad's. I think Brad's got. You know what? Bronson makes tough shots too. Offensively. You get a confident Brad and Bronson. Bronson's probably the better shooter, but
offensively, it's Bronson. That's not offensively. It's Bronson.
Did you watch this last year?
I did. Offensively, it's Bronson. Brad really shot it well this year, though. But I mean, listen, just as an offensive player, all around Bronson. But Brad, I mean, you can't go again. Brad's in that role, in that mold of like Josh, where it's like you want to play with him, like you want to have him on your side for sure.
See, Brad was second team All Big Ten this past year. He was. I think he had more than one 30-point game in his career. Like he dropped 30 on Michigan State as a freshman. This past year, I mean, he was. You take out a cold stretch in February, he was one of the best shooters in the entire country. And then the Iowa State game, he was. He was the only one that played well, and he made some plays defensively where he was clamping down. I don't know if Isaiah Brockington for Iowa State. I mean, he was a legit player.
Yeah.
I mean, Bronson. I was watching that game, and I was like, okay, they have Brad guarding Isaiah Brockington, and Johnny guarding Gabe Kalsher. I was like, do you think they're just trying to rest Johnny? Like, why don't they have Johnny guarding their best player? But
Right.
Brad ended up clamping the dude. He took like 3 charges. He took, he stole the ball like twice in the second half. Like he was making impact plays on defense. That I think's another level than Bronson would on defense.
Right.
And then offensively, I mean, Brad's stronger than Bronson. Can we agree on that one?
Yeah, we're gonna agree on that one.
Yeah, Brad's strong.
You can't go wrong either way for sure.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong either way.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong.
Were you in touch with Brad at all? You know Brad at all? Or
yeah. I know. I mean, Brad's a Minnesota kid too. So, and he played Pulley up here. So, I haven't talked to him recently, but yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sent him a text when they won, when they beat Purdue and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, you know what? And maybe we can find middle ground. One can be the starter. One can be the 6th man.
Bronson can have my spot. Now I'll come off the bench. That's cool. I'll be the old head.
Humble, man. You're too humble. I mean, yeah, for me, you're a lock-in at the point. They need the savvy. They need the savvy vet there. How many more years are you looking to play professionally?
Ooh, shoot, I don't know. I'll play until the checks stop coming. Until the honestly, but like I said, time to probably get closer to my family. I just had a nephew. So ideally, probably 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We'll see. We'll just kind of see what happens.
Okay. And the next question is, what's the craziest fan or fan base story you've had overseas? I from afar, it seems like overseas fans in certain countries, certain situations, they just be like on another level than here in America.
Yeah. I think probably the craziest, when we went to the finals in Rome, they hadn't been in a while. That was probably one of they rushed the court like it was college, and we were like, it was hot. It was like 90 degrees in Italy that day, and it was a game 7 against a rival, or what they call like a derby game, and yeah, that was crazy. I remember standing on the little scores table like LeBron or something. Me and my teammate celebrating. I have a picture of it somewhere. It was pretty cool. But probably that, and then in Israel, I think was probably the craziest when we had lost like 2 games in a row, and the fans stormed the court during a practice and like were mad, and they were like screaming at us and telling us we need to do this, that, and there was probably like 150, 200 fans just stormed the court at practice, and we're like, it was pretty wild.
And that's the thing that you're not going to see, like we talked about earlier. You're not going to see that in the D League.
No,
those are empty arenas, man.
You ain't seeing that nowhere in America.
That means a lot to the people where you're playing. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
So all right. So right here, as we close down, I got a rapid fire game, where you just answer in a decent amount of time. But yeah, I'll list the questions. You just answer as quick as you can. All right.
Let's do it.
All right. So who's your favorite coach to beat in the Big Ten?
Matt. Shit. Damn. Probably Izzo.
Not Tom Crean.
Nah, I don't care about Tom Crean. He was obnoxious. Like.
He cracked me up. Like, he was just such a goon that I just never appreciated him. Like, he's always like adjusting his pants and pacing everywhere on the sidelines. I don't know. He kind of cracked me up. But best home court advantage in the Big Ten.
Michigan State.
Favorite teammate of all time.
Tie for John Lure and Rob Wilson.
Toughest individual match.
I gotta throw Ben Brust in there too. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Toughest individual matchup in the Big Ten.
Dimitri McCamey.
School you would have went to if not for Wisconsin.
Man, probably Notre Dame or any school out west.
Okay. MJ or LeBron?
LeBron.
Best player in the NBA today?
Right now? Oof. It's probably Giannis right now.
Favorite team you played for overseas?
Toyota Alvart. Or no, Asvel.
Okay. The best bar in Madison?
KK every time.
Okay. Who's the best player you played with or against that never made it to the NBA?
Best player played with or against? Jacob Pullen.
Okay. Yeah, he was nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my second to last question here is, I want your all-time defensive team. I didn't give you a heads up on this one, but I want your all-time defensive team, college, NBA, overseas. Give me the starting lineup of dudes you think would just clamp down on the
All-time defensive team.
all-time defensive team, yeah.
David Lighty is on there.
Okay, like I'm talking. So I'm locking like we can go Michael Jordan. So
it's NBA guys
time.
included.
Yeah. Legends, everybody. Wow. You can go anywhere. You can go like that high school player who had no skill offensively. You just can clamp down defensively. Anybody. Your 5.
I'll probably go LeBron. LeBron, MJ, Gary Payton, Dwight, and KG.
Okay. That's a solid group. But do you mind if I give you my starting defensive team?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm gonna rock with at the 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna go with the '90s Bulls. I'm gonna go with MJ, Pippen, and Rodman.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then at the center, you can give me Hakeem. I'm gonna rock with Hakeem.
Okay.
And then the point's a tough one for me. I mean, you've got a lot of dudes who can really D up. I mean, I'm thinking about the glove, but I think I'm gonna rock with Aaron Kraft.
I'm about to get off this podcast right now. There's no way.
Your podcast, and you were asking best guard, and you're like, "Who's the best Big Ten defender?" Big guard's like Kraft, and you and I think it was Mbakwe were just going crazy at that. I'm like,
bro, stop.
Dude,
Stop.
Dude, we were talking about Brad earlier, dude. Kraft, dude. Okay, all because you're his kryptonite. Like, you're the only one who ever in the history of Wisconsin or in the history of college hoops dropped buckets on the guy.
You know what? I took pride in that game too, because I remember before that game, like looking at, and Taylor struggled from the field. Taylor Battle. I think Meach struggled from the field. I think all the guards did struggle from the field again. So I was like determined that game. Like I was like, there's no way this dude, but ain't no way. Because I was one of the last ones to get him that season, and everybody was talking about him, but. Yeah, nah.
you were the only one. So
nah,
here's my theory. What have I told you that the Warriors blackballed him from the NBA?
No.
Okay. Can I tell you my opinion here?
Yeah.
Let's take it back to junior year. Your junior year. The year's 2011. You remember what Jared Sullinger's favorite song was that year? That was all over ESPN, went viral.
What was it?
Party in the USA. So they had
Miley Cyrus song.
Yeah, they had Sullinger, Diebler, and Kraft. They all sang "Party in the USA" like for a little thing Ohio State put on the jumbotron, but it ended up going viral. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, vaguely.
Okay, but so it went viral, and Kraft's it was probably the worst thing I ever heard. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like his voice went so high, I didn't know it was like that possible for like a human voice to go that high. It was just that's all I see yesterday. I guess I never got the memo. It was just a terrible thing. This video went viral. And so the Golden State Warriors, they're like, they were watching his college highlights, and like, this is the only dude who can D up Steph in the world. And like Kraft is the only guy who can lock up Steph.
Yeah, hell no.
So they're watching it. They're like, but we already have Barbosa and Livingston, all right, behind Steph. So we're set. So you know what they do? I doubt you saw this. If you didn't see the Party in the USA in college, I'll have to send it to you afterwards.
Yeah.
But they bring Aaron Kraft in, and then they had
they had him sing. They had him sing as a rookie stuff. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah,
they had a talent show, and they had Kraft like dressed up as a teddy bear.
Yeah, I remember
like a little bear hat and bear arms.
Yeah,
I remember. What song he sings again?
Probably Party in the USA.
Party in the USA. And guess what they did the next day?
They cut him.
Yeah, they cut him.
Oh yeah, I mean,
no one was gonna touch him after that.
Yeah, okay. That's a nice conspiracy theory.
That's the way I saw. Like they were like, this is the one guy that can clamp up Steph, and
Yeah.
they did him dirty. That's the way I see it.
Listen, he was a great Big Ten defender. I'll give him that. He
Okay.
was that. He was a great, but yeah, you can't. I still have scars from that dude, like from fouling. Like, but he was a good Big Ten defender. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, and I knew, like, I was gonna tell that story before, and I'm like, it's gonna be hit or miss. I'm gonna have to watch your reaction to see how good it was, whether I keep that or not. But I had that one planned. I had that.
I see. I see. That's funny.
So, all right, to finish this off, let's do an all-time Badger draft in the modern era, starting with the year 2000. And you're the guest, so you can go first. But yeah, we'll do our starting lineup.
I'll let you go first, and I'll do it. I'll go second.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay, well, I'll rock with I'll go with Devin Harris as my first pick.
Okay. Am I going second?
Yeah.
I can take the same guys, right?
No. This is a draft.
Oh, this is a draft?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a draft. Oh, okay. All right, you can have Devin. I am going to take I'm gonna take Orlando.
Okay. I kind of wanted Orlando. That kind of strategy there. So, well, if you're giving me Frank, I'm gonna have to go Frank. I was gonna concede Frank to you.
I'll take John.
Okay. Well, then I'll go Johnny Davis.
All right. I'll go Sam.
Okay. And then so I have a point, a 2, and a 5. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I was kind of banking on Tucker. Because I was gonna go Devin, Johnny, and Tucker, and I'll be like, I'm too athletic for you to guard.
Nah, definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay. At the 4, I feel like I'm gonna make a stupid decision here. You know what? Let's just rock with Nigel Hayes.
Oh, Nigel. Let me think. I'm gonna forget somebody for sure. I'm going with Marcus.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one right there.
Yeah, Mark.
Okay, and then I had a feeling you were gonna do this. This was part of my strategy. You're a humble guy. You weren't gonna draft yourself. I'm drafting you. I'm moving.
I was gonna take myself last.
Dude, I was moving Devin. I'm moving Devin and Johnny to the 2 and the 3, and I'm putting you at the point.
All right. So I got one left.
Yeah.
Who do I have? Marcus, John,
Sam, Orlando, John, and Marcus.
Orlando, John, and Marcus. And this is Marcus shooting threes too. I want to set the record straight. It's 3-point shooting Marcus Landry. You know what? Can I backtrack? Take someone. I want to replace someone who wasn't there.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Marcus off. I'm gonna put Kirk Penny on mine. And then I'm gonna take damn, who am I forgetting?
You want some point guard names?
Nah, I'm trying to think who I want to take there. I'm gonna take Pop. Take Trayvon.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you're gonna revert, I'm gonna revert back. I'm taking Nigel off. I'm going Marcus.
All right, that's cool.
So I'm gonna go Marcus. So you got now your team. Okay, now your team's looking.
I needed pieces that fit. I didn't have enough ball handlers. I need Kirk and Pop.
So we'll have the many fans of this podcast decide who has the better team. Basically, just my friends and family. But you'll be surprised. Like, I think you're gonna be surprised. I'm gonna have a lot of friends and family who are like, "Oh my gosh, you had Jordan Taylor on the podcast." So
yeah, they got to think about fit, not just names. They got to think about fit. You know.
Oh yeah.
Well, you said you had Johnny, Devin.
Yeah, my lineup is you at the point, Devin Harris at the 2, Johnny at the 3, Marcus at the 4, and Frank at the 5. Versus your team is Trayvon Hughes at the point, Kirk Penny at the 2, Decker at the 3, Orlando at the 4, and Lure at the 5.
Oh yeah, we gonna blast y'all.
You think so?
Yeah.
You're betting against yourself.
we go black. Well, we too athletic for you. We too athletic on the wings.
Low key, Kirk Penny was a freak athlete.
Kirk Penny's a really good athlete and probably the most crafty one. Like we gonna run y'all out the gym.
Dude, I gotta pull this up because I thought of bringing this up. Let's go back to the 2003 NBA Draft Combine. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Kirk Penny for a second. He had the best lane agility time at the entire combine.
Yeah.
The best 3/4 sprint, a better standing vertical than Dwayne Wade, a better max vertical than Dwayne Wade, more bench press reps than Dwayne Wade, was taller than Dwayne Wade. And the only thing that Wade had on Penny was 5 inches on the wingspan.
Yeah. I mean, the wingspan, I would say, just being a fluid athlete does change things, like how it looks. So, and D Wade is obviously probably more fluid athlete than Kirk, but yeah, no, I mean, I think there's yeah. I mean, I've always thought there's like a myth around Wisconsin players, like in that word, not athletic or this, that, and the third. But I really don't believe in that. But like I said, the way it looks, I think our style of play, and I wouldn't say we're necessarily the most fluid athletes, but we're still pretty good athletes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, those. I mean, that's some pretty freaky athleticism. I mean, he had a great career overseas. I believe he's from New Zealand, so he probably wanted to get back home. But
yeah,
I mean, especially if he came out like in today, he would have 100% made the league. With
I mean, I think he spent some time in San Antonio for sure too. So
all the fans of this podcast decide between Jordan Taylor, Devin Harris, Johnny Davis, Marcus Landry at the 4, and Frank at the 5 versus Trayvon Hughes, Kirk Penny, Sam Decker, Alonzo Tucker, and John Lure. Jordan, thank you very much for giving me all your time. I apologize. This went much longer than I thought, but I appreciate you. And
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad to do it, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.